Good morning, good morning. May I request that we all be seated so that we can start. Honorable members, honorable members, a very good morning. My name is Dina Pule, and I'm going to be chairing the session this morning. I would like to open officially the session this morning of the P20 meeting of women parliamentarians, under the theme Women Parliamentarians for Global Solidarity, Equality and Sustainability. And I hope and believe that we are going to have a very good session. I want to wish you well, everyone who's going to speak this morning, and officially declare the meeting opened. May I, without a waste of time, request the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly of South Africa to come and address us. Dr. Lotriet, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, MP. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson, honourable members. Wonderful to see some familiar faces that we saw at the previous P20. You are all so welcome at this wonderful venue. And we also want to say a special word of welcome to our distinguished guests. It is a privilege to address a gathering like this. Gender, climate change, resilience are interconnected in ways we can no longer ignore. This intersection is not just urgent, it is the defining challenge of our time. The G20, representing nearly 80% of global carbon emissions and over 2/3 of the world's population, holds immense power to influence and shape the trajectory of our planet's future. Yet, despite this influence, the 2025 Overseas Development Institute report titled Gender Equality and Climate Crisis reveals a critical gap. The majority of G20 nations acknowledge this disproportionate impact of climate change on women and girls, but only a few have meaningfully integrated gender into their national climate strategies. And this is where I do hope that the 2 days discussion will take us. Even more concerning, the UN Women Report on the gendered impacts of climate change shows only 15 out of 133 heads of delegation in COP28 negotiations were women. Let me repeat that. Only 15 out of 133 heads of delegations. Yet women and girls represent 80% of those displaced by climate disasters. Our mandate as women parliamentarians is that we not only bring legislative authority, but also a deep understanding of communities we serve. And we must use both. First, champion gender-responsive climate policies. Advocate for legislation that considers how climate change disproportionately affects women, especially in rural areas. Second, ensure inclusive budgeting. Push for climate finance and resilience building funds to include allocations for women-led initiatives. Third, promote women's leadership, and this is so important. Encourage women's participation in climate governance, disaster response, and clean economy sectors. Fourth, monitor implementation, and this is where the P20 plays such an important role. Use oversight powers to ensure that climate and resilience programs are implemented in ways that benefit women equality. Now, if we look at the mandate of parliamentary committees on women, these committees must drive transformation through three critical functions: legislative authority, propose or amend laws to integrate gender into climate change frameworks, advocate for policies that support women's access to land, water, and clean energy, key resources affected by climate change. Oversight and accountability. Monitor government departments and agencies to ensure gender-sensitive implementation of climate programs. Hold hearings with stakeholders, women farmers, civil society, and academia to assess the impact and gaps in climate legislation and programs. Collaboration and partnership. Work with other communities, environment, finance, to mainstream gender across sectors. These communities must become a hub of accountability where women are not merely included, but empowered. The emphasis on empowered. Now, in South Africa, we face severe climate impacts. The recent droughts and floods have affected health, tourism, and economic output. Crop and livestock yields are declining. Working hours for low-skilled workers, particularly women-exposed sectors, have decreased. Heat-related mortality, infectious diseases transmission, drought-associated malnutrition, and mental health challenges have increased. We have responded in South Africa with comprehensive frameworks. We have the Climate Change Act of 2024, in which we recognize the adverse effects of climate change on women. The National Climate Change Response White Paper explicitly recognizes the unique vulnerabilities of rural women and calls for gender-sensitive adaptation strategies. Our 2025 updated nationally determined contributions was developed through gender-responsive consultations across all 9 of our provinces. The Just Energy Transition Investment Plan, those initiatives, backed by over 350 billion rand in investment, includes gender inclusion as core principles. The Jobs First project in one of our provinces in Mpumalanga prioritizes women's employment and leadership in green sectors. Government's training and mentorship programs target women in renewable energy, biodiversity, aquaculture, and waste management. Our National Job Initiative, expanded public works programs, commits to creating over 121,000 work opportunities with a focus on women and youth. We can then look at parliamentary action because as parliamentarians, we have a very specific responsibility. Parliament convenes roundtable discussions exploring climate change impacts on women ahead of COP meetings. But honourable guests, much more has to be done. From enforcing gender-sensitive policies to funding gender-led climate initiatives. In conclusion, climate knows no borders, but its solutions must be inclusive. Women are not just stakeholders, they are leaders. We represent them, and they count on us to turn policy into action. And it starts now. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, for the welcome remarks to all the honorable members in this session. May I just assist members, honorable members, you have translation services, and I think on the table there must be a piece of a paper that shows you South African Sign Language 0, French 2, Arabic 3, Portuguese 4, something like that, so that you then have the translation services, and so that you are able to follow the discussions. Thank you very much. We are going to have the second speaker of the day, remarks by the IPU. On your agenda, there's a different name. However, we have this morning Ambassador Anda Philip. Please take the podium.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chairperson, Madam Deputy Speaker, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen. It is a true honor to be here today in the beautiful country of South Africa for the second edition of the P20 meeting of women parliamentarians. The IPU president regrets that she could not be with you here in person due to pressing commitments back home. However, I am pleased to deliver these remarks on her behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, at a time of mounting and deepening crises, the need for solidarity and collective solutions is urgent. We very much welcome the decision by the Parliament of South Africa to focus this parliamentary meeting on the key issues of global solidarity, equality, and sustainability. Indeed, these objectives, your work, and parliamentary diplomacy offer valuable opportunities to strengthen cooperation across borders, to build trust, and to place citizens' concerns at the heart of international dialogue and action. But to succeed, we must face an undeniable truth. These objectives cannot be met as long as equality, and especially gender equality, persists. Despite progress, women today account for only 27% of parliamentarians worldwide, and just 22% of speakers of parliament are women. Their perspectives remain largely absent from policy making, and too many of these women parliamentarians continue to face discrimination, harassment, and even violence. The IPU's own research has shown that 1 in 4 women MPs has suffered physical attacks, and that more than 80% have endured psychological abuse during their term in office. Such realities are unacceptable. Parity must therefore become the norm rather than the exception. It is not just simply a matter of fairness. It is a matter of legitimacy and of effectiveness. Parliaments that reflect the full diversity of their societies are better equipped to respond to people's needs, and policies shaped by equal participation are undeniably more inclusive, representative, and sustainable. And in some parliaments, parity is now a reality. This was made possible through political will and strong legal frameworks. The IPU, therefore, is working to make such progress universal. Excuse me. Earlier this year, at the Global Conference of Women Parliamentarians that was held in Mexico City, the MPs adopted a comprehensive plan of action for parity. This provides a practical toolbox to accelerate equality through quotas, reforms in campaign financing, zero tolerance for harassment, thank you, and accountability mechanisms to ensure that commitments are indeed enforced. This message was echoed more recently at the 15th Summit of Women Speakers of Parliament held in Geneva in July. The summit called for gender-sensitive parliaments and for women's equal presence in diplomacy, in peace and security, climate action, and in the governance of science and technology. These efforts are anchored in a growing body of normative commitments. The IPU Kigali Declaration of 2022, endorsed by all of your parliaments, affirmed the need for institutions that are gender sensitive, inclusive, and safe, and for lawmaking and budgeting that close persistent gaps. And most recently, the CEDAW Committee's General Recommendation number 40 on women's equal and inclusive representation in decision-making systems, co-developed together with the IPU, underscored that parity is not just aspirational. It is a binding international responsibility and a prerequisite for democratic legitimacy. The task before us, therefore, is clear. We cannot hope to deliver global solidarity while women remain underrepresented in peace processes and in parliaments. We cannot achieve sustainability while women's knowledge and leadership are being sidetracked. We cannot build trust in new technologies if women are excluded from shaping the rules that govern artificial intelligence. And we cannot secure inclusive growth if discriminatory laws and unequal care responsibilities continue to hold women back. That is why the IPU has placed gender equality at the very heart of its work. Our Forum of Women Parliamentarians, celebrating this year its 40th anniversary, remains a vital platform for advancing women's leadership. And our campaign on gender equality, action by action, reminds us that indeed progress is built step by step through gender-responsive laws, through reforms to institutional culture, through stronger protections against violence and discrimination, and through accountability. All of our member parliaments have signed on to these commitments, and together we can help bring about positive change. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, the challenges ahead can be met if we remain steadfast in our purpose. Parliamentary diplomacy and this very forum of the P20 women parliamentarians provide the means to work together across differences and cultures. But solidarity, equality, and sustainability will remain out of reach unless gender equality is at the very center of the agenda. On behalf of the IPU, I would therefore like to invite you all to join us in this effort to build parliaments and societies where women and men share power and responsibilities equally, and where progress for half of humanity becomes progress for all. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for the words of encouragement and counsel. And thank you very much to the Deputy Speaker, to both of you, for reminding us that as honorable members and women of parliamentarians, that our leadership is crucial in shaping responses to climate change, energy transition, and economic and gender inequality. The next speaker on the program is the chairperson of the Multi-Party Women's Caucus, Honorable Dunjwa, who's going to give us remarks on behalf of the Multi-Party Women's Caucus. Honorable Dunjwa.
Thank you, Chairperson of the session, the Deputy Speaker of South Africa, members of the Steering Committee of the Multi-Party Women's Caucus, legislatures that are with us Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this beautiful city and this country. It is with deep humility and immense pride that I address this impact gathering. I stand before you today not only as the chairperson of the Multi-Party Women's Caucus of South Africa, but as just a simple woman from a country called Port Elizabeth here in South Africa. My journey from those ordinary beginnings to this global platform is a reminder that women, when given the chance to rise, they can shape the destiny, not only of their communities, but of the world. We gather this morning under the theme that is not just a slogan, but a mandate for our time. Women Parliamentarians for global solidarity, equality, and sustainability. And in reminding the solidarity, we are standing here, in particular from South Africa, remembering women that marched in 1954 under a very difficult environment on the 9th of August. Those women may have been killed because the system was very vicious at the time. And therefore we are here today, standing here because of the struggles that were waged by those, I always say grandmothers, because we are their daughters. And we are standing here, not for ourselves, but for our daughters and our granddaughters. We met at a pivotal moment in history, a moment of intersecting crisis from climate change to geopolitical strife, but we also stand at the frontier of possibility. The decisions we make, the laws we pass, the solidarity we forge in this hall, like these will determine whether the 21st century becomes an era of genuine inclusion or a new chapter to entrench inequality. The P20 provides us with a platform to strengthen solidarity across borders and party lines. Our struggles may differ in context, but they are bound by a common trend: the fight against exclusion, discrimination, and marginalization. Solidarity is not a slogan. It is a practical tool that enabled us to share strategies, learn from each other's experiences, and amplify our collective impact. Solidarity lays the foundation for what must come next, because without sharing strength across borders and parties, the pursuit of equality remains fragmented. Equality is our non-negotiable goal. And I want to repeat this. Equality is our non-negotiable goal. It is the legal, economic, and social parity that remains elusive for too many times. It means that equality pay, equality representation in boardrooms and parliaments, and equality freedom from violence. But equality not on its own is not enough. It must be linked to sustainability, because with us, equality today, if the planet cannot sustain our daughters tomorrow. Sustainability is our legacy. It is about building economies that nurture our platform, societies that care for their people, and a future where our daughters and granddaughters can not only survive, but thrive. Sustainability only means preparing for the forces that are rapidly reshaping our societies. Just as climate change demands our leadership, so does technology. But honorable colleagues, to achieve sustainability, gender equality, future, we must confront the single greatest disruptor of our age, the rapid rise of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not a distant concept. It is here, reshaping our economies and redefining the world of work. And we, as women, parliamentarians, we must ask the critical question: how will this technological revolution impact the skills and economic future of women? The potential is immense. Artificial intelligence can automate burdensome tasks, diagnose diseases with stunning accuracy, and personalized education. It can be a powerful, good tool. Yet, we must be clear-eyed about the risk. Initial studies show that automotive has a gendered impact. Roles with high concentrations of women in administration, customer services, and even certain sectors of health are particularly sustainable to automation if we are not proactive. Artificial intelligence could widen the economic gap, erasing hard-won gains and leaving women behind. These risks remind us that the future is not written. It will depend on the choices we make in forums like this. Let us leave these meetings not only to renew commitment, but with a concentrated plan of action. Let our solidarity be the network that supports women entrepreneurs. Let our pursuit of equality be the law that mandates the allocants. Let our dedication to sustainability ensure that technology serves humanity and protects our planet. And the message from the steering committee on behalf of the multi-party caucus from Parliament of South Africa is that the future is not something that happens to us. It is something we build with our hands, our minds, and our unwavering solidarity. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, Honorable Dunjwa, the Chairperson of the Multi-Party Women's Caucus in the National Assembly of South Africa. The next speaker will be the Chairperson of the Select Committee on Security and Justice, a Member of Parliament in the other house in South Africa, the National Council of Provinces. She's going to give us the overview on gender and climate action in parliamentary work. Honorable Mananiso.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and let me greet the Honorable President in his absence here, and as well honorable chairpersons from both houses, Minister in the Presidency on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, honorable members and distinguished delegates and ladies and gentlemen, and I want to appreciate more men who are here as advocacy of equality. Allow me to take this opportunity and appreciate the platform to contribute and share insights to this discussion of the P20 Women Parliamentarian, premised on the theme, Women Parliamentarians for Global Solidarity, Equality and Sustainability. Honorable Chair, it's an honor to join you today in this important conversation, where together we can drive the intersection of two critical forces shaping our future: climate change, adaptation, and the gender mainstreaming in the environmental sector. Gender inequality has long been a global issue, despite efforts to address these inequalities through international frameworks like the United Nations Charter, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the Beijing Declaration and the Platform for Action. The reality is that many women, especially in developing nations, remain disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change, as alluded by the Deputy Speaker. Climate change is one of the greatest social, economic, ecological, and environmental challenges of our time. It is also an incontrovertible challenge to human rights, not least because it severely impacts global public goods such as water and land, while placing those that have not caused the crisis at its front line. The climate change-induced challenges exacerbated water insecurity, crop failures, food insecurity, and health risk, resulting in damage to critical infrastructure and disruption to the provisions of basic services. While all feel its impact, underlying inequalities and uneven coping capacities leave some population more vulnerable. Women are heightened risk due to a variety of factors, which include the following. They are overrepresented amongst the poor, highly dependent on natural resources for their livelihoods, and are frequently excluded from the decision-making processes. This often leads women suffering a disproportionate impact for natural and man-made disasters. Ironically, women, despite being the most affected, women lead post-disaster recovery efforts. While this affects our resilience, it adds a significant burden. The loss of infrastructure like homes, schools, and health services, along with financial insecurity, can lead to severe consequences for women and girls. Lacking security and services, increasing vulnerability to gender-based violence and femicide, sexually transmitted diseases, unintended pregnancies, early marriages, and other forms of abuse. In Gauteng, we are spreading across Gauteng the 7 Bs, which is books before boys, because boys bring babies. So I would want you in this P20 to adopt that awareness. In this regard, G20 member states must adopt a gendered approach in responding to the adverse aspect of climate change and risk disaster management to mitigate the risk for women. Over the past few decades, and just before the climate change challenges started to manifest, the lives of women around the world had improved dramatically. Women have made unprecedented gains in the recognition of rights, education, health, and access to jobs and livelihoods. The progress made by South Africa in women empowerment and gender equality, despite several challenges still encountered, is South Africa at the forefront of leadership in this domain. Nonetheless, there are blunted gaps in achievement at the global and local levels, and they place the significant gains made at risk. Girls and women who are poor, live in remote areas, are incapacitated, or belong to minority groups, continue to lag behind, placing them on a huge disadvantage in being able to respond effectively to impacts of climate change. The South African Parliament is overseeing the climate change adaptation and gender mainstreaming initiatives, aiming to incorporate gendered consideration and adaptation plans and include women as decision makers in climate change processes. G20 member states should advocate for similar gender mainstreaming in all climate change responses, as alluded by IPU. This action must be integrated into special planning and the needs to be improved data availability for monitoring and evaluation intervention. This will allow the establishment and growth of an inclusive climate response. Honorable Chairperson, the G20 member state significantly contribute greenhouse gas emissions, driving climate change which disproportionately affects women. Our parliament must oversee program implementation in line with our nationality determined contributions. While taking responsibility for 4 emissions, we must reinforce the common but differentiate responsibilities on the Paris Agreement. We should advocate to develop countries to financial climate mitigation and adaptation in developing countries and ensure women and girls are not left behind in combating climate change. We are saying here as well that persons with disability as well, elderly persons and children from ECDs must not be left behind when we deal with climate change issues. The path towards a sustainable future free from the effects of climate change hinges on our collectively ability to address this disproportionate impact of women. As G20 nations, we hold a unique position to champion a gender-responsive approach to climate change by prioritizing women's leadership, ensuring equitable participation in decision-making and recovery efforts, and investing in their economic and social empowerment. We not only safeguard our most vulnerable, but also unlock a powerful force for resilience and innovations. Honorable members, let us commit to concrete actions that bridge the gender gap in climate response, fostering an environment where women are just survivors, but active architects of a climate-just world for all. Gender mainstreaming is not just a theoretical concept, but a practical necessity. It means integrating gender consideration into all aspects of climate change, adaptations, strategies, policies, and programs. By doing so, honorable members, we ensure that the unique experience and contributions are not only recognized by us, but all are harnessed in ways that promote sustainable development. The National Environmental Management Act, as alluded by the Deputy Speaker, acknowledges the vital role of women in environmental management. However, we must do more than just acknowledge, but we must act. It is through inclusive approaches that we can begin to build resilience, reduce vulnerability, and address the inequality that climate change exacerbates. As I conclude, Chairperson, I want to say cooperation, partnerships, integration, and proper plans is the new currency for developing countries. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mananiso, the Chairperson for the Select Committee on Security and Justice. Books before boys for our girls. Honorable members, the next speaker has requested, okay. The next speaker, she's going to give us remarks on the theme, Women Parliamentarians for Global Solidarity, Equality and Sustainability. And that's Honorable Lizelle van der Merwe, the National Assembly Portfolio Committee, Chairperson on Women, Youth and Persons with Disability. Honorable van der Merwe.
No, Chairperson, I think the podium was made for a man because I'm just as tall as this podium, so that's why I wanted to speak from my seat. But thank you very much, Chairperson of this session, Honorable Pule, the Deputy Speaker of our National Assembly, Dr. Annelie Lotriet, our Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities and Abstentia, the Chairperson of the Multi-Party Women's Caucus, Honorable Dundwa, and her steering committee, the presiding officers of the South African Parliament and parliaments represented here today, leaders of delegations of various countries present, as well as the delegations from the IPU and PAP, honorable colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Chairperson, throughout history, women in leadership have been powerful agents for change. Our resilience, wisdom, and courage have transformed our societies, such as South Africa, and challenged the status quo. We rise today to speak for the women and girls of South Africa who have entrusted us to be their voices, and for the women and girls worldwide whose fight for dignity, safety, and equality persists. For despite remarkable progress, women representing over half of our humanity remain held back, disproportionately affected by poverty, inequality, conflict, climate change, and violence. Their struggles threaten their very safety, dignity, and futures. These issues demand a comprehensive, united response rooted in our unwavering solidarity. So as we gather here today with a shared purpose, we recognize and celebrate the invaluable role women parliamentarians must play in shaping a more just, equitable, and sustainable world. The theme, Women Parliamentarians for Global Solidarity, Equality, and Sustainability, is not only timely, but it is a clarion call to action. First, it is a clarion call to action to end poverty. Nearly 70% of those living in extreme poverty are women and girls. Across nations, they lack access to basic education, healthcare, and economic opportunities. Their unpaid labor, often invisible and uncompensated, sustains families and communities, trapping them in cycles of poverty and inequality. We must introduce in our parliaments measures to recognize and value unpaid care work performed by women and girls. We are duty-bound as parliamentarians, not only to craft laws that break these cycles, but to ensure protections, decent work, and economic empowerment for all. Second, colleagues, today must be a clarion call to action to confront persistent gender inequality. Despite progress, discriminatory laws continue to hinder gender inequality. Then, as the IPU had mentioned, women's representation in political leadership remains inadequate. We only occupy less than a quarter of parliamentary seats worldwide. Our voices must rise in our parliaments to challenge these, while we also advocate for gender-responsive budgeting and expanding women's participation in decision-making. Third, today must be a call to champion education for all. Over 122 million girls are out of school, especially in conflict zones. Female illiteracy and low levels of education continue to hinder sustainable development, and it perpetuates cycles of poverty. Education is not merely a right, it is a powerful key to uplift and empower our communities. We must push for policies that eliminate, for example, barriers such as child marriage and period poverty. Fourth, today is also a call to action to protect women and girls in conflict zones. Today we honor and remember the brave struggles of many women in conflict zones, but they need more than just our solidarity. Previous G20 speaker summits reaffirmed that women's leadership are essential foundations for sustainable peace and security. And as we demand peace, we must also demand that women are part of negotiations and humanitarian responses, safeguarding their rights and elevating their leadership. Fifth, today must also be a call to action to end gender-based violence. This scourge remains a national crisis here in South Africa. The portfolio committee that I lead, the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, continues to put this fight into sharp focus. We oversight our national strategic plan on gender-based violence and femicide. We will soon identify candidates of civil society and business to serve on South Africa's first National Council on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. And from a parliamentary level, my portfolio committee will soon lead Parliament's very first statutory rape inquiry. But 1 in 3 women globally has experienced physical or sexual violence. This grim reality stains our collective conscience. We must ensure accountability and end impunity for perpetrators of gender-based violence through strengthened legal frameworks, effective prosecution, and survivor-centered justice systems. Lastly, today must also be a call to action to close the gender pay gap. Globally, women continue to earn 20 to 30% less than men for comparable work. The gender pay gap is still pervasive in our labor markets, and it must be addressed. Bridging this divide requires bold reforms, equal opportunities, and cultural shifts. We must champion these through law and leadership. Colleagues, this conference calls on us not just to identify the problems, but to identify the solutions. We are entrusted with the future of the young women and girls of our respective countries. We must therefore support each other in efforts to champion gender equality. To this end, we must lead in our parliaments to see the following: eliminating of all forms of discrimination against women, not just in law, but in practice. The ring fencing of funding and resources to eradicate gender inequality. We must promote gender-sensitive policies and budgeting. We must see to climate policies that are gender-sensitive. We must foster inclusive governance where women's voices guide decision-making. Peace initiatives must include women at the forefront. And we must hold each other accountable through transparency. Honourable members, this is our moment to act. And let me repeat this. This is our moment to act. We are and must be catalysts for change. Our presence in decision-making chambers is vital as it amplifies women's voices and ensures that gender perspectives are integrated into all levels of governance. Let us remember that gender equality, it's not just a women's issue. It is a fundamental human rights issue and a necessary condition for sustainable development. When women are empowered, our societies thrive. When women participate fully, economies grow, peace is fostered, and environments are protected. Today, I call upon all of us, members of Parliament representing our various countries, policymakers, and stakeholders, to unite in solidarity. Let us forge alliances across nations, cultures, and sectors, for our solidarity is our strength. We must harness this. In conclusion, I wish to welcome all of you to our beautiful South Africa. May you have a very wonderful conference. And remember that we hold the collective power to forge a future where every woman and girl can thrive in dignity, freedom, and opportunity. It must be our generational mission to build a world where women and girls have got equal opportunities, safe spaces, and voices. A world that reflects our collective aspirations for solidarity, equality, and sustainability. The South African Parliament will play its part. It's time to act. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable van der Merwe, for the remarks. We do appreciate it. Honorable members, I would like to apologize on behalf of the Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, who had a delayed flight. She was supposed to be here earlier. Unfortunately, she has not yet arrived. So our sincere apologies on her behalf. The next item, therefore, is the photo session for all women parliamentarians, and then we take a break. Thank you very much for your time. May we be seated? Honorable members, I would like to apologize a bit for having promised you a photo session. It's still coming. We will have it after the presentation. Just before we took a break, we apologized on behalf of the Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. She is going to give us a keynote address on women leadership in climate and energy justice. The Honorable Minister Sindisiwe Chikunga. Honorable Minister, it's your time if you could come to the podium. And immediately after the minister's address, we will then take a photo session that was supposed to be taken before, and we will do it here in front. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Thoko Didiza, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Dr. A. Lotrit, Vice President of the Interparliamentary Union, Honorable G. Morawska Staneka, Honorable Members of Parliament from South Africa, the African continent, and across the G20 member states, leaders of the Pan-African Parliament, civil society organizations, academia, business, as well as panelists, distinguished guests. I wish to begin by congratulating Parliament for convening this important P20 meeting of women parliamentarians under the timely theme of women's leadership in climate and energy justice. As we move closer to the G20 Leaders Summit, it is purposeful dialogue such as today's meetings that will guarantee that the impact of our presidency, both in policy and in practice, is felt well beyond declarations. We appreciate that you found it fitting to convene us in this manner because in both climate action and energy transition, women leaders remain few and far between. Yes, representation matters, role models matter, but the issue here is bigger than representation. Both science and humanity suffer when women are excluded from all areas where decisions are made and power is exercised. Across Africa and the world, women have long stood at the front line of climate resilience and adaptation. They have tilled the land during drought, carried water through times of scarcity, sustained families when floods displaced communities, and kept societies functional through both natural and man-made disasters. More recently, during the global pandemic, it was women frontline workers, both paid and unpaid, who put their lives on the line in order to give humanity a lifeline. Dear colleagues, climate change is no longer some distant threat. It is our immediate lived reality. The flooding in parts of KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape and the well-documented impact of extreme heat on pregnant women should serve as urgent wake-up calls. Cyclones in Mozambique, droughts in the Horn of Africa, and the recurrent floods across South Africa continue to expose how women face disproportionate risk of displacement, violence, and impoverishment during crisis. First, all these events have revealed that climate vulnerability is not gender neutral. It is shaped and magnified by entrenched disparities that determine who suffers the most, who recovers the least, and who is often left behind. It is precisely because women carry these unequal burdens that their leadership must be placed at the heart of climate and energy justice. To exclude women from the task at hand is to sabotage the very resilience we seek to build. Secondly, the World Bank's Groundswell Africa report estimates that by 2050, Africa could face as many as 86 million climate migrants, with women and children comprising the majority. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization has already cautioned that climate change is placing unprecedented strain on food systems. 278 million Africans currently face food insecurity, with women-headed households bearing the worst brunt. In other words, the absence of concrete action on our part will only deepen inequalities, destabilize our economies, stunt much-needed growth, and further breed instability. While some advances have been made in women's participation in education, health, and political representation, structural inequalities persist, and our country is no exception. The 2024 SDG Progress Report paints this grim picture. The most concerning setbacks are clustered around 4 critical goals that affect women most. The SDG 5 on gender equality, SDG 6 on clean water and sanitation, SDG 7 affordable and clean energy, and SDG 13 on climate action. Only 15.4 of SDG 5, that is gender equality indicators, are on track to be met by 2030, with particular regression on women's economic empowerment and political participation. Thirdly, for us as African women, our experience of climate change and energy transition can hardly be separated from our colonial past. For centuries, colonial regimes thrived on extractive economies centered on resource exploitation for foreign benefit with little regard for environmental sustainability. We inherited economies dependent on this apparatus of exploitation, the results of which continue to perpetuate cycles of dependency and vulnerability. Fourth, and as a result, energy poverty due to reliance on firewood, charcoal, and other biomass fuels has led to severe respiratory illnesses, deforestation, and further environmental degradation. The World Health Organization estimates that indoor air pollution from biomass fuels kills 3.8 million people annually, the majority of them being women and children. Energy transition that ignore women's voices risk perpetuating these cycles of harm. The fifth issue on climate finance further reflects these disparities. Only a small fraction of resources are directly accessible to women's organizations. Large-scale financing continues to favor infrastructure-heavy projects dominated by male-led enterprises and governments. Women farmers and entrepreneurs who sustain the backbone of rural economies remain excluded from the very financing streams needed to scale climate-resilient agriculture and renewable energy innovations. While climate disasters strike, it is women who are again disproportionately affected. Their limited access to land rights, credit, and social protection reduces their capacity to recover. Honorable Program Director, for us to lead climate action and just energy transition, we must foreground the intersectional nature of the crisis before us. Women's vulnerability to climate change across Africa and globally is not uniform. Intersectionality reveals how factors such as age, disability, rural-urban location, and socioeconomic status shape experiences. For instance, women with disabilities face compounded barriers in accessing disaster relief and safe shelters. Rural women, especially smallholder farmers, face land dispossession and water scarcity. Young women are disproportionately affected by forced migration and child marriage triggered by climate shocks. This intersectional lens helps us expose why generic gender-sensitive approaches are inadequate. We have to focus on dismantling the very power structures that are perpetuating these disparities in decision-making structures. Only then can women's leadership emerge as a force not of piecemeal interventions, but of systemic change. In South Africa, our National Development Plan 2030 provides a clear roadmap of where we stand as a country and where we are headed. It states, South Africa's primary approach to adapting to the impact of climate change is to strengthen the nation's resilience. This involves decreasing poverty and inequality, increasing levels of education, improving healthcare, promoting skills development, and enhancing the integrity of ecosystems. Our adaptation policies and measures include adequate support for the vulnerable, significant investment in new adaptive technologies and techniques in the water, biodiversity, fisheries, forestry, and agricultural sectors, early warning systems for adverse weather, pest and disease occurrence, disaster relief preparedness, and significant investment in conserving, rehabilitating, and restoring natural ecosystems to improve resilience. During a State of the Nation address, His Excellency President Ramaphosa reiterated by saying, our government is implementing a just energy transition, not only to reduce carbon emissions and fight climate change, but to create growth and jobs for our people. Government will undertake this transition at a pace, scale, and cost that the country can afford, and in a manner that ensures energy security. With South Africa's abundance of solar, wind, and mineral resources, our policies prioritizes the creation of thousands of jobs in renewable energy, green hydrogen, green steel, electric vehicles, and other green products. Special focus has also been given to regions such as Mpumalanga, where new industries and sustainable livelihoods are being developed as part of the transition. Our primary objective is to ensure that women are at the center, not the periphery, of these mega projects. The legacy of South Africa's G20 presidency must be marked by a gender-responsive continuation of these efforts, extending well beyond our term. Here at home, solutions are taking shape. The Just Energy Transition Investment Plan includes pathways for women-owned enterprises in the renewable sector. At continental level, the African Development Bank has launched the Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa program to close the $42 billion US dollar credit gap for women entrepreneurs. Globally, the Green Climate Fund has begun applying gender-responsive criteria for its investments. These interventions show that financial inclusion is not a side issue. It is the gateway to ensuring women lead in climate and energy transition. Dear colleagues, as colleagues are aware, South Africa has assumed the G20 presidency under the theme Solidarity, Equality, and Sustainability, a theme that reflects South Africa's commitment to building on the efforts and successes of previous G20 presidencies while advancing the Sustainable Development Agenda. The collective essence of solidarity, equality, and sustainability aligns with the values enshrined in our Constitution, a cornerstone of our constitutional democracy that not only guides South Africa's internal affairs, but also shapes how we engage with the rest of the world. Our chairship of the Empowerment of Women Working Group, which we are leading as a department, has elevated three key priorities. The first one being care economy, recognizing and addressing the value of paid and unpaid care and domestic work. As part of our Empowerment Working Group deliverables, benchmarking and comparative analysis work is already underway as part of our commitment as our legacy project to develop a comprehensive national care economy strategy for South Africa. The second priority is the promotion of financial inclusion for women, ensuring equitable access to financial resources for women. The third priority is addressing gender-based violence and femicide, tackling systemic violence against women and girls. These three priorities are not exclusive, they are mutually reinforcing. The care economy, for instance, is foundational to the future of global well-being, As long as those at the bottom of the economic ladder, predominantly women, remain on the margins of undercompensation economic activities, inclusive economic growth and financial inclusion, which is the second priority, of course, whether you look at it from the climate action or energy transition, will remain elusive. Above all, we firmly believe that the empowerment of women will remain a distant dream unless we collectively deliver a decisive blow to the prevalence of gender-based violence and femicide. Honorable Chairperson, our wish is for this P20 meeting to serve as a rallying call to position African women not as projected beneficiaries of climate and energy policies drafted elsewhere, but as architects of the very transformative change these sectors so urgently require. Parliament is where commitments are translated into laws, budgets, and oversights. It is parliamentarians who can ensure that energy and climate policies allocate resources fairly, that extractive industries are held accountable, and that financing frameworks reach women at the margins. The program before us, from sessions on inclusive growth to debates on ethical resource governance to strategies for mobilizing finance, is not just discussion. It is a roadmap for legislative action. Each topic we engage today must find expression in the mandates of committees, in the language of statutes, and in the scrutiny you apply to executive power. As Kofi Annan reminded us, there is no tool for development more effective than the empowerment of women. From New Delhi to New York, from Johannesburg to Jakarta, from our cities to our villages, we must put women at the center. On behalf of the government and the people of South Africa, I wish you well in your deliberations. May the outcomes of this P20 resonate powerfully at the G20 Leaders Summit, carrying the clear message that parliaments are ready not only to debate justice, but to legislate it. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Sindisiwe Chikunga, for the keynote address. Honorable members, allow me to acknowledge and recognize the presence of the Speaker of the National Assembly of South Africa, who earlier on went to join the session of the young parliamentarians. She has come back to join us. Welcome back, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Togo Didiza. Thank you very much. Honorable members, we have come to the end of the first session now. It is the opportunity for the women parliamentarians to have a photo session, and the photo session will happen where I am. May I request that the team come and help us to sort out the space here for the photo session. Thank you very much.
just want
is
to
it
take
going
this.
to be able to move? Okay.
You sound okay? No, we're good.
One, two, okay. Can we be seated, please? Good morning, honorable members. At least it's still morning. Let me take this opportunity and greet the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Speakers of legislatures, members of Parliament, guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Ngabisa Kancho. I am the chairperson of Portfolio Committee on Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment in the National Assembly. I will be chairing this session with my co-chairperson that I'm going to introduce. The theme for this session, it is Women Parliamentarians for Global Solidarity, Equality and Sustainability. My co-chairperson, the chairperson of Pan-African Parliament, Honorable M. Gabala, she is going to do a few remarks. Then we will proceed with the country statements. Honorable Galawa, over to you, ma'am. She indicated that she's going to do her speech in French. We do have gadgets for those who will not understand French. Then the interpretation services are available. Over to you, Mama. Thank you.
Honorable Madame la ministre de la Femme, de la Jeunesse et des Personnes handicapées, honorables parlementaires, Mesdames et Messieurs,
ladies and gentlemen,
c'est avec un grand honneur qu'il me revient de co-présider cette première session de la deuxième conférence des femmes parlementaires du P20. Je suis Madame Mariam Dao Gabala, sénateur de la République de Côte d'Ivoire, présidente de la Commission permanente de l'égalité en genre, de la famille, de la jeunesse et des personnes handicapées du Parlement panafricain. Je voudrais saisir cette opportunité pour remercier le Parlement sud-africain d'avoir associé le Parlement panafricain, la voix des peuples africains, à cette importante conversation parlementaire. La Commission de l'égalité en genre, de la jeunesse, de la famille et des personnes handicapées que j'ai l'honneur de représenter, consciente que l'égalité et l'équité sont une urgence planétaire, a initié une loi type continentale sur l'égalité et l'équité en genre, en vue d'accélérer la transformation de notre société et accompagner nos États dans leur marche vers une société africaine plus inclusive et plus juste. Cette proposition de loi type sera adoptée en novembre par le Parlement panafricain et diffusée à travers les parlements nationaux. Mesdames et messieurs, notre rencontre se déroule sous le thème d'une portée exceptionnelle, mettre à profit la diplomatie parlementaire pour promouvoir la solidarité mondiale, l'égalité et la durabilité. Mesdames et messieurs, chers parlementaires, ce thème nous rappelle que les parlements ne sont pas seulement des lieux de débat législatif, mais de véritables acteurs de diplomatie mondiale. Dans un monde marqué par les tensions économiques, sécuritaires et environnementales, nous devons faire de la diplomatie parlementaire un outil stratégique pour rapprocher les nations, renforcer la solidarité et inscrire l'égalité et la durabilité au cœur de nos politiques publiques. Mesdames et messieurs, cette première session est cruciale. Elle donne le ton de toute la conférence. C'est ici que chaque État membre pourra exprimer ses priorités, ses réussites et ses attentes. Elle constitue la base de notre déclaration finale. Les contributions que nous allons entendre nourriront le document final que nous soumettrons au P20 et au G20. Elle incarne enfin l'esprit de solidarité globale. En écoutant attentivement les voix de toutes les régions, nous bâtissons des solutions partagées au-delà de nos frontières et de nos différences. Je voudrais simplement nous adresser trois messages pour orienter nos échanges. Le premier message, c'est agir pour l'égalité et la justice sociale maintenant. Nos pays ont progressé, mais beaucoup reste à faire pour que l'égalité cesse d'être une promesse et devienne une réalité vécue par chaque citoyen et chaque citoyenne. Deuxième message, transformer les déclarations en action. Les objectifs de développement durable, en particulier l'ODD 5, égalité en genre, et l'ODD 10, réduction des inégalités, nous engagent. Nos débats doivent produire des recommandations concrètes and that can be measured. Third message, bâtir une voix commune. We have to build a common voice. This conference has to be the opportunity to speak with one voice to show that women parliamentarians are offering inclusive and ambitious solutions for a sustainable future. Dear colleagues, let us share our experiences, let us be frank, let us listen with an open ear to identify the best practices to build a common agenda in favor of solidarity, equality and sustainability. By unifying our voices today, we affirm that parliaments have to build bridges and not walls, and that they are able to influence the global future in the interests of all. I would like to invite the delegations to present their declarations, their statements, so that their contributions come to help us in our reflections and mark a more equal and sustainable world. I will now hand the floor to the Honourable Ngasho, my co-chair, to invite the various countries to make their statements. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Kabala. We are now going to call countries. We have 16 countries that are here. We are going to call Angola,
we will request that the member who's going to do the statement to come to the podium. The first country to do their statement will be Angola. Not sure if we have someone from Angola. Still, we don't have a member from Angola? Do we? Oh, can we then call Angola to come to the podium?
Yes, we do have, we are here. First of all,
Yeah, can you come to the podium? Can we give her a round of applause?
it's okay. Well, thank you so much. My name is Aya. I'm an MP from Angola. Thank you, South Africa, for receiving and hosting this meeting for us. We did do request to be speakers on these sections, but unfortunately the member of our delegation that would address this session is not here. The flights have come with a certain delay, so we do apologize, and we hope that she will still be here in time to address this plenary. Nonetheless, we do commend and we do salute all of you here, and we do think that this will be a very important working section. And as the chair of this session just said, it probably will lead the debate through all the discussions that we have for these 2 days. Thank you so much.
I think it will be fair for me to read the countries so that they know. The second country will be Australia. The third one will be Botswana. The fourth one will be China. China will be followed by the European Union Parliament, followed by India. The seventh one will be Interparliamentary Union. Eighth will be Italy. Ninth will be Mauritius. Mauritius will be followed by Russia. After Russia, it will be Saudi Arabia, followed by Spain, then South Africa, followed by Turkey, then United Arab Emirates, then the last one will be United Kingdom. Can we give a round of applause for Australia?
Thank you very much, and I want to begin by thanking South Africa for hosting the G20 and for the heading of solidarity, equality and sustainability. If it applies to any group, it particularly applies to us as women. So thank you for bringing us here and for hosting. So my name is Sue Lyons. I'm the President of the Australian Senate, and I'm only its second female president in all of the history of the Australian Parliament. And I'm the first female president from the Australian Labor Party, which is the governing party currently in Australia. So we still have a way to go. What has been evident about this meeting of women parliamentarians is that gender inequality permeates all aspects of our lives as women, no matter which country we come from. The common themes I've heard this morning are the effects of climate change on women, the issues around gender inequality, and how that we still strive in all of our countries of ensuring gender equality as part of what we do to make sure that the lives of women and girls are improved, but that we make an equal contribution to our societies no matter where we live. In my region, the Indo-Pacific, the impact of women's inequality is felt deeply, and the effects of climate change and sustainability are also really difficult issues for Pacific Island nations. Climate change, as we've heard this morning, is not gender neutral, And we know that in the Pacific, it has resulted in the accelerated sea level rise, that ocean warming is affecting the lives of people in Pacific nations, particularly women. When I visited the Pacific nations over the last term of government, what we heard was those countries are facing the real threat of their countries disappearing. That is the absolute number one issue. And then what happens to issues of sovereignty, of where people go, of governments, of rights around seas, and all of those issues are very, very genuine, and they are the number one issues in the Pacific Islands. And of course, as we've heard this morning, climate change disproportionately affects women. We know that it's in the Pacific Islands, natural disasters such as flooding and tornadoes, those sorts of things disproportionately affect women and girls, and yet we still don't have equal representation of women on disaster relief, on contributing to issues of resilience and of issues of how climate change impacts their every life. So one of the things that we've done in Australia is that our commitment to gender equality remains very strong. We now have rules and legislation governing that every piece of legislation that we implement through the Parliament has to have a gender lens on it. And that not only relates to the domestic situation in Australia, but to us as a major donor and a major contributor to the well-being of Pacific nations through our development programs, that gender lens has to be a key part of what we do, so that 80% of the funds that we contribute throughout the Pacific have to have that gender lens on them, because we are very serious about implementing changes and positive results for women. And as you heard one of the speakers this morning say, we can talk about the problems, the issues of family and domestic violence, which are issues in Australia as they are in all of our countries, but we have the solutions and we must be solution-based. So I'm very honoured to be here. I've really, I'm not sure enjoyed is the right word, but I'm really heartened by the conversations and the contributions that we've heard this morning so far about gender equality and the issues facing all of us. I look forward to hearing from others from the country statements, and I look forward to our continued participation as women, as strong parliamentary leaders. It really is up to us to make the change, not only in our own countries, but to contribute globally. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Australia. We have just few apologies. European Union is not going to participate. Their rep has not yet arrived. Saudi Arabia, they support the meeting, but they were not going to do any statement. Spain, there's no interpretation services in Spanish, so they will not participate. I will now call upon Botswana to come and do their statement. Botswana. Okay, I do not see Botswana. You can. No, Botswana, they don't have a statement, but they support the deliberations and the meeting. We will now recognize China.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, distinguished representatives, parliamentarians, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to be present here. I'm not a parliamentarian, but I'm interested by parliamentarians inside China. And I'm a minister counselor of the Chinese embassy to South Africa. I feel much honored to join women parliamentarians to discuss issues of common concern by sisters throughout the world, not limited to the G20 countries. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all women parliamentarians, either present or not present here, for your persistent effort to strive for the rights and development of women in each country, as well as at the international forum. This is a special moment. Looking forward, the G20 will be convened in this beautiful country, South Africa, in less than 2 months. In the near future, in another beautiful country, my motherland, China, there will be the Global Leaders Meeting on Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment in Beijing, signifying China's readiness to work with countries around the world to jointly accelerate the progress of women's development. In retrospect, this year marks the 30th anniversary of the 4th World Conference on Women, which was held in Beijing, and this conference marked a significant turning point for global agenda for gender equality. I was so lucky that I participated in the NGO Forum on Women ahead of the conference 30 years ago. I hope some of my sisters present here were in Beijing 30 years ago as well. Since then, China has not only advocated, but also acted on concrete actions to strive for gender equality and women's well-rounded development. A white paper was issued on September 19th. I would like to draw your attention to this paper because this paper introduced China's philosophy, principles, and innovative practices in promoting gender equality and women's well-rounded development in the new era. It also highlighted Chinese women's outstanding achievements, contributions, and affirmed China's commitment to joining global endeavors for women's advancement. I will not take much time here to give detailed introduction. I would like only focus on a few points. In terms of equality, China has improved top-level design and systematic planning accordingly. It has promoted gender equality in rights, opportunities, and outcomes, safeguarding women's rights and interests in accordance with the law. China has integrated the advancement of gender equality into its broader development process. To advance women's cause, China has established a mechanism for the work related to women, and which party committees exercise leadership. That's the party's role, and governments assume primary responsibility, that is to implement. And working committees on children and women, which is a separate, a special committee in charge of the welfare of child and women, play a coordinating role, and women's federations work in collaboration. Relevant departments of the government provide support. And the whole society participates. This is a comprehensive mechanism. You may ask what achievements you have achieved after the Fourth World Conference on Women 30 years ago. There are a lot. I would just give two numbers. First, in terms of the maternal mortality rate, this rate has dropped by 76.9% from 61.9 per 100,000 in 1995 to 14.3 per 100,000 in 2024, far below the global average. Another figure is about female students in institutions of higher learning. This number in 2024 was 50.76% of the total, 14.15% percentage points higher than 1995. So we have made our efforts and we have made our achievements. We would be happy to exchange experiences and learn each other with women all over the world, including my sisters present here. And we know that we face challenges and opportunities. We are ready to work with you. And I would like also to take this opportunity to wish this conference a great success. Thank you so much.
I am just informed, thank you very much, China. I am just informed that the French interpretation is not working. Can that be corrected? The team, please, that is dealing with the interpretation. Can you correct that? We are now going to call upon India. The Interparliamentary Union has indicated that they have tabled their remarks earlier in the first session, so they will not be participating in this second session. But they do support the messages. Can we then call India? A round of applause for India.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ruby Jaspreet. I'm the Indian Consul General in Cape Town, and I'm representing the Government of India at this very important platform today. As we deliberate upon the important theme of global solidarity, equality, and sustainability from women's perspective, I stand to share the Indian journey for an all-encompassing, equitable, inclusive, and sustainable development, where women are leading the path of development in different sectors. Gender equality is a prerequisite for sustainable development. The UN Sustainable Development Goals, particularly SDG 5 on empowering women, as central to eradicating poverty, ensuring economic resilience, and safeguarding our planet, found reflection in India's development policies long before the adoption of the SDGs. Today, while advancing towards becoming a developed country, we walk towards committed to the principle of leaving no one behind. What we call in India, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, and Sabka Prayas. During India's G20 presidency, the leaders committed to enhancing women's full, equal, effective, and meaningful participation as decision makers for addressing global challenges through women-led development. The G20 leaders' commitment to gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls took an institutionalized form under India's G20 presidency through the creation of a dedicated working group on empowerment of women. Over the past decade, India has launched transformative initiatives to address systemic inequalities. It may be noted that in the financial year 2025-26, there is an increase of 37.25% over the gender budget allocation of financial year 2024-25. Economic inclusion is a cornerstone of our efforts. Through the Stand Up India scheme, we provide loans to women entrepreneurs, among others, to start businesses in sectors ranging from agriculture to technology. Over the past year, the scheme has empowered women at the grassroots by providing skill development and access to credit, enabling them to become entrepreneurs and community leaders. Apart from this, the National Rural Livelihood Mission has mobilized over 100 million women into more than 9 million self-help groups, creating sustainable livelihoods and fostering financial independence. India emphasizes on driving gender-inclusive climate action and supports increase in women's participation, partnership, decision-making, and leadership in climate change mitigation and adaptation, and disaster risk reduction strategies and policy frameworks on environmental issues. India's Barefoot College since 2000, with support from the Government of India, has been running what we lovingly called the Solar Mamas program, in which middle-aged, often illiterate rural women from non-electrified villages from across the world are trained as solar engineers. Over 1,600 women from 96 countries have been trained, electrifying more than 60,000 houses, saving 45 million liters of kerosene and cutting emissions. By integrating gender perspectives into environmental policies, we ensure that women who are disproportionately affected by climate crisis are also key contributors to the solution. Today is the time to equip women with skills in emerging sectors like green technology, artificial intelligence, and renewable energy. These will not only ensure the economic inclusion, but also position them as leaders in sustainable development. The G20 New Delhi Leaders Declaration 2023 committed to halve the digital gender divide by 2030. In this context, the Digital India Initiative is bridging the gender-digital divide by providing women access to online education, e-commerce platforms, and digital advocacy tools. The Parliament has passed several laws to bring a gender-just society. We have brought a landmark legislation in 2023 that mandates reserving 1/3 of seats in the lower house of the Parliament, state legislative assemblies, and the Delhi Legislative Assembly for women. I'm very happy to be here at this platform today. I congratulate South Africa on behalf of the Government of India, and I'm sure from everybody else's side also, for organizing this very important meeting. I look forward to hearing other countries' statements. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, India. I am now going to call Italy. Then I will hand over to my co-chairperson to call other remaining countries. Thank you very much. Italy. Is there someone from Italy? Oh, okay. Okay, no, not noted. I will note that they are not going to participate in this session. I will then call Mauritius to come and do their remarks. Do we have Mauritius? Okay. Don't have Mauritius. Honorable, I will call you now to call the remaining countries. I will give you this one. Yes. And then I will do
Thank you. Can we now call Russia for a statement?
It's the same case as the Italy and the speaker in the afternoon, but now we all share and support all the statements.
Okay, thank you so very much for your support. Now let us call South Africa.
Honorable chairpersons of the sessions, honorable members, distinguished guests, good morning. On behalf of South Africa, I will be presenting an overview gender and climate action in parliamentary work. Honorable chairpersons, let me begin with a statement that is both urgent and undeniable. Climate change is not gender neutral. Climate change is increasingly recognized as a driver of displacement, and women are disproportionately affected due to existing social, economic, and cultural inequalities. The intersection of gender and climate vulnerability creates a crisis within crisis, the one that demands immediate parliamentary attention and decisive action. Climate-induced displacements exacerbates gender-based violence in ways that should alarm us. Studies show that women in temporary shelters face 3 times higher rates of sexual violence than those in stable conditions. In overcrowded and under-resourced shelters, women frequently face lack of privacy, inadequate sanitation, and limited access to protection services, all of which heighten their vulnerability. Reports from post-disaster settings across the world have documented spikes in intimate partner violence and sexual harassment. In South Africa's 2022 KwaZulu-Natal floods, displaced women, especially single women, reported emotional trauma and exposure to unsafe conditions in temporary housing. These are not isolated incidents. They are part of growing pandemic of gender-based violence, intensified by climate change. I am the witness of this. My condition today changed because of gender-based violence. I'm now living with disability. Multiple burdens, they are more likely to depend on climate-sensitive resources. We have limited access to information and early warning systems and face greater barriers of recovery and adaptation. On the economic dimension, honorable chairpersons, the economic impacts of climate change on women cannot be overlooked. Women constitute 70% of world's poor and are more likely to work in climate vulnerable sectors such as agriculture, fishing, and forestry. We cannot exclude domestic working. When droughts destroy crops or floods, devastate fish, grounds, women's livelihoods are often the first to disappear and the last to be restored. In many developing economies, women are responsible for water collection and food production. As climate change makes water scarce and agriculture less predictable, women must walk longer distances, work longer hours, and face greater uncertainty, all while caring for their families. Honorable chairpersons, on the leadership gap, despite bearing the heaviest burden of climate impacts, women remain significantly underrepresented in climate decision-making. Women hold only 33% environment ministers' position globally. And in COP, 28 women made up 34% of delegates in climate negotiations. This leadership gap is not just unfair, but it is counterproductive. Research consistently shows that women participation in environmental governance leads to better outcomes. Communities with greater female representation in forest management committees have lower deforestation rates. Countries with higher female parliamentary representation are more likely to ratify international environmental treaties and implement stringent climate policies. Honorable Chairpersons, on parliamentary opportunities, as parliamentarians, we have unique opportunities to address these challenges through our legislative oversights and representative functions. First, in our legislative capacity, we must ensure that all climate-related laws and policies do include gender impact assessments. We must mandate that climate adaptation funds allocate specific resources for women protection and empowerment. We must strengthen legal frameworks that protect women from climate-induced displacement and violence. Secondly, in our oversight role, we must scrutinize government climate programs to ensure that they address gender differentials. We must demand that climate budgets include dedicated funding for women's needs. We must monitor the implementation of international communities and commitments, including the Paris Agreement Gender Action Plan. Thirdly, as representatives of our constituencies, we must amplify women's voices in climate debates. We must ensure that women from all backgrounds and have platforms to share their experiences so as their solutions, because indeed solutions, honorable members, are within us, not outside and without us. In conclusion, we have the power and tools as parliamentarians to enact better laws, allocate resources more fairly, and ensure women have a real voice in decision-making that affects their lives. We must do right things if we want effective climate change. So we submit as South Africa, honorable chairpersons.
Thank you, South Africa. A second round of applause for South Africa. Thank you for hosting us and for this profound statement. Your recommendations are well noted. Now we call upon Turkey, la Turquie.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Before I start my speech, I would like to inform you about Madam Asuman Erdoğan, the president of the IPU Turkish group, had to cancel her South Africa program due to a health issue related to her child. Therefore, I am heading the delegation. I think I am the male parliamentarian who has attended the women parliamentarians meeting most frequently across various platforms. I am happy to be with you. Even tough, I wasn't invited to the group photo. Thanks. I mean, distinguished participants, the theme of the upcoming P20 summit carries exceptional significance for today's world at a time when inequalities, crises, and conflicts are escalating. Parliamentary diplomacy stands as an indispensable instrument for dialogue, understanding, and the pursuit of a just and sustainable future. To overcome this global challenge, we must not only strengthen international cooperation, but also ensure that parliamentary diplomacy remains continuous, dynamic, and effective. At this critical conscious, perspective of women is more essential than ever. Women parliamentarians bring invaluable experience, insight, and determination to the search for solutions to common global problems. Their leadership is key to dismantling the inequalities that hinder global solidarity and sustainable development. The deliberation of this meeting will greatly enrich our understanding of women's roles in social and economic life and help us design more effective strategies to combat inequality. Esteemed colleagues, approaching vital issues such as disaster resilience, transition, sustainable development, and agriculture through a woman-centered lens will enable to us to forge policies that are not only equitable but also transformative. The contributions shared here will inspire legislative action within our respective parliaments and serve as a catalyst for meaningful social change. Today, however, we must also confront the harsh reality that women face not only persistent social inequalities, but also the devastating consequences of wars, displacement, poverty, and violence. The ongoing humanitarian tragedy in Gaza is a painful reminder that women bear the disproportionate burden in times of conflict. Safeguarding women's right to life, dignity, and security is not merely a national duty, it is a universal obligation of global conscience and international law. In this regard, the voices of women parliamentarians resonate as a powerful call for solidarity extending far beyond national borders. Women's experiences and insights bring a unique and indispensable dimension to policy making, ensuring that responses to crises are both inclusive and effective. Empowering women in parliaments strengthens the collective capacity of humanity to build a fairer, more peaceful future for all. Let us therefore seize this opportunity not only to exchange best practices, but also to lay the groundwork for stronger, enduring cooperation among our parliaments. Equality between women and men must not merely remain a distant aspiration. It must serve as the guiding principle of all our policies and programs. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Latuki. A round of applause again to encourage him.
Thank you, Chair. Just a small announcement. We have a challenge with French interpretation. I am just informed that the second interpreter of French has just pulled out in the last minute. So we only have one French interpreter who takes 30-minute break. So is it on now? Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, I will practice my English. So thank you so very much, Turkey. And we did wish speed recovery to the child of the representative who couldn't make it. And for you, sir, even though it is a women conference, yes, please feel warmly welcome. Okay, now let us call United Arab Emirates.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. في البداية يطيب لي أن أعبر عن تقديرنا العميق لجمهورية جنوب أفريقيا قيادة وبرلمانا وشعبا على جهودهم في الإعداد والتحضير المتميز لأعمال هذا الاجتماع الذي يأتي تزامنا مع شهر المرأة في جمهورية جنوب أفريقيا، ليؤكد على المكانة المحورية للمرأة الأفريقية، الأمر الذي يضفي على مداولاتنا بعداً رمزياً يعزز من مكانة المرأة ودورها المحوري في مسيرة النهضة والتنمية. السيدات والسادة، نجتمع اليوم إيماناً بأن تحقيق المساواة بين الجنسين والحد من أوجه عدم المساواة الجندرية هو السبيل الأمثل لبناء مجتمعات أكثر عدلاً وقدرة على مواجهة التحديات المشتركة. ويقع على عاتق البرلمانات تحويل هذه المبادئ إلى تشريعات وسياسات فعالة وضمان ترجمتها إلى ممارسات وثقافة مجتمعية راسخة. ومن هنا تبرز الحاجة إلى شراكات برلمانية وحكومية تعزز ثقافة تكافؤ الفرص باعتبارها استحقاقاً إنسانياً للرجل والمرأة معاً، وتدفع نحو استراتيجيات وطنية بمؤشرات واضحة وأطر زمنية محددة. فالمساواة وتمكين المرأة ليستا غاية في حد ذاتهما فحسب، بل شرط لتحقيق التضامن العالمي وضمان الإنصاف الاجتماعي وبناء تنمية مستدامة قوامها المواطنة والانتماء والتسامح. السادة الحضور، إننا في دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة نؤمن بأن تمكين المرأة شرط أساسي لتحقيق التنمية المستدامة وبناء مجتمعات عادلة. فقد أرست الاستراتيجية الوطنية لتمكين وريادة المرأة 2015-2021 إطاراً إرشادياً مكن المؤسسات من تعزيز حضور المرأة في الحياة العامة السياسية، واستكمل هذا النهج بإطلاق السياسة الوطنية لتمكين المرأة 2023-2031 التي تستهدف ترسيخ المشاركة الكاملة والمتكافئة للنساء في مختلف القطاعات من الاقتصاد والتشريع إلى العلوم المتقدمة كالفضاء والذكاء الاصطناعي. وبفضل هذه السياسات المتكاملة أصبحت المساواة قيمة راسخة في التجربة الإماراتية، فتصدرت الدولة المركز الأول عربيا في تقارير المنتدى الاقتصادي العالمي بشأن المساواة بين الجنسين، وبرزت كنموذج عالمي يحتذى به. وقد ترجمت تلك السياسات والاستراتيجيات إلى واقع ملموس، فالإمارات هي أول دولة عربية تنتخب امرأة لرئاسة برلمانها، واليوم تشغل المرأة نصف مقاعد المجلس الوطني الاتحادي، مما يضع دولة الإمارات في المركز الرابع عالميا في مؤشر نسبة تمثيل المرأة في البرلمان. كما تطلع المرأة الإماراتية اليوم أدوار قيادية بارزة، فهي وزيرة وسفيرة وقاضية ورائدة أعمال وفاعلة في مجالات الدبلوماسية والتكنولوجيا المتقدمة والعمل المناخي. فهذه الإنجازات لم تكن وليدة الصدفة، بل جاءت ثمرة إرادة سياسية واضحة وقيادة استشرافية ومجتمع يتبنى المساواة باعتبارها قيمة وطنية راسخة. السادة الحضور، جسد المجلس الوطني الاتحادي قناعته بأهمية دور المرأة في الممارسة العملية من خلال دوره التشريعي في إقرار قوانين داعمة لحقوق المرأة مثل المساواة في الأجر وحقوق الأمومة وحمايتها من العنف، ومن خلال رقابته على السياسات الحكومية لضمان مراعاة احتياجاتها في التعليم والعمل والصحة. ولم يقتصر الأمر على الجانب الوطني، بل اطلعت عضوات المجلس الوطني الاتحادي بدور فاعل على المستوى الإقليمي والدولي، سواء عبر تمثيل الدولة في المنظمات البرلمانية والإقليمية والدولية أو قيادة منتديات ولجان محورية في تلك المنظمات، بما يثبت أن المشاركة السياسية للمرأة الإماراتية ليس حضورا شكليا بل مساهمة جوهرية في صياغة السياسات والدفاع عن القضايا الإنسانية. ختاما، إن اجتماعنا هذا يأتي امتدادا لمبادرة رائدة انطلقت من البرازيل وتبنتها رئاسة جنوب أفريقيا ضمن أعمال قمة رؤساء برلمانات مجموعة ال20 P20 في مسار يضع المساواة وتمكين المرأة في صميم الجهود البرلمانية الدولية. وعليه إننا نتطلع إلى أن يستمر هذا النهج في القمم المقبلة ليبقى صوت المرأة حاضرا بقوة في صياغة مستقبل أكثر عدلا وإنصافا. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
May the peace of God be upon you.
Thank you, United Arab Emirates. A second round of applause. And I'm quite impressed by your past achievements. Now let's call United Kingdom.
Madam Chairman, Deputy Speakers, Madam Speakers, distinguished colleagues and esteemed friends, it is an absolute pleasure to be joining you this afternoon. My name is Nusrat Ghani. I'm a UK parliamentarian. I'm also the Deputy Speaker of the UK Parliament. The Deputy Speakers and the Speaker are elected by the whole House, and a year ago I ran for that election, and I'm now the only second female Deputy Speaker in the UK Parliament, of the first person of colour to sit in the Speaker's chair in the United Kingdom. It is a privilege to join you at the second P20 meeting of women parliamentarians under South Africa's G20 presidency. Massive congratulations on putting together this stellar event. I bring warm greetings from the United Kingdom and from the House of Commons, where we share your commitment to equality, sustainability and solidarity through parliamentary action. This meeting is more than a side event. It is a statement of intent. It signals that women parliamentarians are not content to be on the margins of global decision-making. We are here to shape the agenda. And what an agenda we have: gender equality, inclusive development, and accelerating the Sustainable Development Goals. These are not abstract ideals, they are essential for a just and prosperous world. Now, we all know that delivering equality requires transparent, free and open elections, and democratic governments are best placed to ensuring that women have a voice at the top table. We also know how incredibly hard it is to be a public servant, to be a female elected member of parliament. And this session is entitled Women Parliamentarians for Global Solidarity. So as I recognise the strength and courage of all female parliamentarians, it would be remiss of me not to recognise the strength of female parliamentarians, in particular in Ukraine, who are spending their third year in defending democracy in Europe against an illegal invasion of Ukraine. Our discussions for the next few days will focus on issues that cut to the heart of global resilience. These are not only policy priorities, but they are also moral obligations. Because when women lead, societies thrive. When women have an equal seat at the table, decisions are just fairer, economies are stronger, and democracies are just healthier. As President Nelson Mandela once said, freedom cannot be achieved unless women have been emancipated from all forms of oppression. South Africa's leadership in hosting this meeting reminds us that progress is possible when courage meets conviction, and this gathering is a fantastic testament to that. Now, from the UK perspective, we have made some important strides. Women now make up 35% of members of Parliament, the highest proportion of our history. We have had 2 female prime ministers, 1 female speaker, and women also hold key cabinet roles, especially in traditionally masculine sectors. As a Conservative Member of Parliament, I have served as a Minister in Transport, Investment, Industry, Investment and Security. It's important that women take over positions that are normally recognised as male, not just female positions to have. Yet, we know that challenges remain. Women are still underrepresented in senior decision-making positions, especially when it comes to gender-based violence. We had a very powerful presentation on that earlier on, and also the fact that the gender pay gap still persists. We heard earlier on that there's a 20% difference in that pay gap. We also know if that pay gap was narrowed, as the World Bank has said, that the GDP of each country would rise by 20%, so it feels like an absolute no-brainer. These realities remind us that equality is not a destination, but a continuous journey, one that demands vigilance, innovation, and solidarity. Colleagues, the challenges we face, whether it's climate change, inequality, economic uncertainty, they're just interconnected. So too must be our response. Parliamentary diplomacy gives us a unique tool, the ability to turn dialogue into law and law into lasting change. Each of us, individually, carries the hopes of millions of women and girls who look to their parliamentarians for justice, opportunity and dignity. Let us not disappoint them. Together we can ensure that P20 is not just a platform for discussion, but a catalyst for transformation. Thank you, and I wish us all a productive and inspiring meeting ahead. Because the P20 is so important to us in the UK, especially this summit over the next 2 days, I am joined by my co-Deputy Speaker of the House of Lords. Please give a warm welcome to Baroness. Baroness, I will let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deborah Bull, Baroness Bull. I am indeed a Deputy Speaker in the House of Lords, and it is a great privilege to represent the United Kingdom's second chamber here at this P20 in South Africa. I should say that although we are called the House of Lords, when the role of Lord Speaker was created following an adjustment of the systems some years back, the first ever Lord Speaker was indeed a woman. I would like to extend and repeat the grateful thanks to our hosts for their generous hospitality and indeed for placing such vital themes as global solidarity, equality and sustainability at the heart of their leadership of the G20. All parliamentarians share a responsibility to promote meaningful and respectful dialogue and to ensure that voices from all different communities, particularly the disadvantaged, the historically excluded, and the vulnerable, are heard. But we, as women parliamentarians, we have an additional responsibility. It's our role to ensure that women's voices are raised up, that women's perspectives, needs, and insights are taken into account when creating policy. It's our role to encourage and perhaps educate our male colleagues to do the same. And it's our role to hold governments to account when they fall short of those ideals. Of course, we must also acknowledge the achievements when credits are due. And for myself, in the UK, I think of the work that our government is doing with international finance institutions, the UN, the World Bank, the IMF, to ensure that gender is factored into multilateral investment and financing. I think of the UK's commitment to universal sexual and reproductive health rights, to universal quality education, not least through our investment and support in the International Finance Facility for Education. And as a woman, I'm especially proud that the UK remains committed to standing up and speaking up for women and girls in all their diversity, including LGBT+ women and girls that have disabilities. But despite these achievements, we must all admit there is more that we can do, both at home and in partnership with our friends across the world. We can do more working together to advance equitable inclusion, and forums like this one play such an important role in building understanding and relationship between different nations, allowing us to share our knowledge and our experiences and to strengthen our collective response to global challenges, which, as we know, do not respect national borders but impact across the world. So though we represent different parliamentary systems, different beliefs, and different philosophies, there are many things that unite us. And front and center of that is the shared truth that we are all women. We share a common aim, that our political systems and structures create spaces for the voices, perspectives, and participation of all women. We are one global community, and we have much to learn from each other. And already this morning, I have learned from the opening speakers today. From the Honourable Dr. Lou Triet, we heard solidarity is not a slogan, solidarity is a mandate. And from the Honourable Mrs. Dunjua, who reminded us of the women of 1956 on whose shoulders we stand today. Solidarity is not a slogan, solidarity is a strategy for change. When women work together, when we recognise ourselves in each other, miraculous, fantastic achievements can be made. And so I say to our South African hosts, your philosophy of Ubuntu has special residence here today. I am because we are. So thank you for this opportunity to remember and reflect on this important truth. I know that I will go home enriched by new perspectives, by new stories, improved by your stories, and better able to play my part in my country's efforts to drive change and create a world that is fully inclusive, a world that is therefore better able to adapt and thrive to the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead. Thank you.
Merci au Royaume-Uni. A second round of applause for them. We thank you all for your statement. I'm now calling my co-chair to give the final remarks.
Thank you, Honorable Chair Kabala. I'll just do a few remarks, closing remarks. Indeed, as women parliamentarians, we play a vital role as agents of change in society. We should use our legislative influence to dismantle systemic barriers and promote gender-responsive policies across initiatives focused on climate justice, economic empowerment, and peace. Our collective efforts and increasing representation are crucial for advancing the Sustainable Development Goals and creating a more equitable, inclusive, and sustainable world for all. With those few remarks, honorable members and colleagues, we would like to thank all of you for your remarks that you've made and your valuable inputs. Myself and the co-chair, we are now done with our session. We're looking forward in your deliberations as we will proceed with the program for the next sessions. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the time now is 12:21. We are done, and we were supposed to be done by 13:30. I think we can move to another session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Honourable members, I think this is just an example of the efficiency of women, that we run through things. So I just want to make sure that our chairpersons are available. I think it is Honourable Bosov from the South African National Council of Provinces and Mozambique. Is it Mozambique? Yes, is our representative from Mozambique here? I was slightly worried about that because they have been scheduled for 14:30. So I think as a reward for your wonderful contributions and efficiency, you will have a longer lunch and enjoy the wonderful environment here. We will then convene again at 14:30. Thank you so much.